Nestled deep in the rolling countryside, far from the noise of cities, lay the sleepy village of Willow's End. It was a quaint little hamlet, a patchwork of cobblestone streets, rustic cottages and sprawling farmlands. While the village was charming in its simplicity, its reputation was tinged with unease, for Willow's End was home to a chilling legend, the tale of the Scarecrow Wife. The Scarecrow, unlike any other, stood atop a solitary hill on the outskirts of the village. She was no ordinary guardian of crops. Dressed in a faded but once elegant gown, with a straw bonnet tied neatly under her chin and a painted face too lifelike for comfort, she had watched over the hill for decades. Locals avoided her like the plague, whispering of curses and disappearances. Eleanor, Ellie Carter, had no patience for ghost stories. A budding journalist with a knack for uncovering hidden truths, she had moved to Willow's End in search of inspiration for her next big story. Her editor back in the city had insisted she take a break, and the village seemed the perfect escape. From the moment she arrived, Ellie was captivated by the locals' guarded whispers about the Scarecrow Wife. At first, she dismissed the story as rural superstition, but the more she heard, the more curious she became. One evening, while nursing a pint of ale at the village tavern, Ellie finally decided to ask about the Scarecrow. The room, which had been filled with jovial chatter moments earlier, fell silent. All eyes turned to her. "Why does everyone seem so afraid of it?" Ellie asked, her voice cutting through the tension. After a long pause, Agnes, an elderly woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, spoke. "It's not just a scarecrow, lass. It's a warning. Those who meddle with it don't come back." Another villager, a man named Harold, leaned forward. "Legend says it's the spirit of Clara Graves. She was a farmer's wife, beautiful and kind. One day she vanished. Her husband, Thomas, was never the same. Not long after, that scarecrow appeared on the hill." Ellie frowned. "And no one thought to investigate?" "Oh, some did," Agnes replied grimly, "and none of them came back." Determined to separate fact from fiction, Ellie decided to see the scarecrow for herself. The next morning she packed her notebook, camera, and a flashlight and set off for the hill. As she approached, the wind grew colder, and an unnatural silence blanketed the area. Even the birds seemed to avoid the hill. The scarecrow was more unsettling up close. Her dress, though weathered, hinted at a bygone elegance. Her face, painted with rosy cheeks and a delicate smile, seemed almost alive. Ellie's breath hitched as she noticed the detail in the eyes, glass marbles, catching the light in a way that made them seem to glimmer with intent. Ellie circled the scarecrow, inspecting its base. Her foot struck something buried in the soil. She knelt and brushed away the dirt, revealing a tarnished locket. Inside was a faded photograph of a smiling couple and the inscription, "Thomas and Clara, forever." She pocketed the locket, took a few photos, and returned to the village. That evening, Ellie visited the local historian, Mr. Barrow, an eccentric old man who lived in a cottage crammed with books and artifacts. When Ellie showed him the locket, his expression darkened. This belonged to Clara Greaves," he murmured. He rummaged through a stack of papers and pulled out a faded journal. "This is Thomas Greaves' diary. It's unsettling." Ellie flipped through the journal. The early entries were filled with declarations of love for Clara, but as the pages wore on, the tone shifted. Thomas became paranoid, accusing Clara of wanting to leave him. The final entry read, "She won't leave me, not ever. She'll stay where she belongs." "You think he killed her?" Ellie asked. Mr. Barrow hesitated. "There were rumors, but no one ever found her body." That night, Ellie couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. As she lay in bed, the locket on her nightstand began to glow faintly. Then came the whispers. As Sunkaval told her not to move, Ellie looked at Mia. "Help me." Ellie bolted upright. The voice was soft, desperate, and unmistakably female. She grabbed the locket and the whisper grew louder. "The hill. Find me." The next evening, Ellie returned to the hill, armed with a spade and a resolve to uncover the truth. She began digging around the base of the Scarecrow. Hours passed, and just as she was about to give up, her spade struck something solid. She unearthed a wooden box, its surface etched with intricate patterns. Inside, wrapped in rotting fabric, were human bones. Among them lay a wedding ring engraved with the initials TM and CS. As Ellie stared at the remains, the wind howled and the Scarecrow seemed to shift, its painted lips curved into a sinister smile. The whispers returned, louder this time. "Burn it," the voice commanded. "Burn it and free me." Ellie gathered dry wood and doused the Scarecrow with oil. As she struck a match, the whispers turned into anguished cries. Flames consumed the Scarecrow, and the cries grew deafening before fading into silence. When the fire died down, Ellie buried the ashes alongside the bones. The air grew still, and the oppressive feeling that had haunted the hill lifted. For the first time, Ellie felt a sense of peace. The Scarecrow was gone, and the legend of the Scarecrow Wife began to fade. Ellie's discovery made headlines, and her story brought closure to the villagers. Though the mystery of Clara's tragic fate was solved, Ellie couldn't shake the feeling that something lingered. On quiet nights, when the wind rustled through the trees, she sometimes heard a soft, grateful whisper, "Thank you."